Welcome to Celebrity Scoop. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay updated on the latest financial news. The financial world was recently taken by storm when former President Donald Trump launched a scathing attack on Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Utilizing his Truth Social platform, Trump boldly labeled Powell as a major loser and heavily criticized the Federal Reserve's management of interest rates. Now, what was Trump's bone of contention? Well, he demanded immediate cuts to interest rates. According to Trump, the Fed's current handling of interest rates is detrimental to the economy. His argument was that the rates were too high for businesses and consumers, thereby stifling economic growth and prosperity. This was no subtle critique. It was a full-blown assault on the policies of the Federal Reserve and its chair, Jerome Powell. Trump's words were not just a mere expression of dissatisfaction. They were a clarion call for drastic changes in the conduct of the Federal Reserve, changes that could potentially alter the economic landscape. Trump's fiery criticisms did not fall on deaf ears. They were heard loud and clear across financial markets worldwide, causing ripples of concern and uncertainty. The reaction to his words was swift and dramatic, with the effects being felt almost immediately in the financial world. And this is where things get interesting. You see, Trump's criticisms of Powell and the Federal Reserve weren't just political rhetoric. They were a direct challenge to the independence of the Federal Reserve, a cornerstone principle of modern economics. His words raised questions about the possibility of political pressure influencing monetary policy, a prospect that could have significant implications for the US and global economies. So what's the bottom line? The balance between politics and central banking has been thrown into sharp relief. The financial markets are on edge, and the future of the Federal Reserve's autonomy hangs in the balance. But one thing is clear: Trump's attack on Jerome Powell has turned the financial world on its head. The repercussions of Trump's words were immediately felt in the financial world. Trump's comments sent shockwaves through the financial markets. The very day following his harsh criticisms, the US stock market reacted with an intensity that left many gasping. The Dow Jones, a key index representing 30 major US companies, plummeted over 3%. This was no small dip, but a significant plunge that had investors sitting up and taking notice. It was not only the Dow Jones that was affected. Other major indices, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, which are broader representations of the US stock market, also experienced significant losses. These losses were not just numbers on a screen. They represented billions of dollars in value wiped off the market in a single day, a clear indication of the unease that rippled through the financial sector. Simultaneously, the US dollar, the world's primary reserve currency, fell to a 3-year low. This was a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of financial markets and the influence of politics on economic health. The strength of the dollar is a barometer of confidence in the US economy. Its fall raised eyebrows and questions about the potential impact of political pressures on economic stability. The reaction was not limited to the US market alone. Global markets too felt the tremors. Investors worldwide started questioning the ripple effects of these developments. Would this lead to a global economic slowdown? Could other economies be dragged down too? As the dust began to settle, it became clear that these were not just reactionary jitters. These were serious concerns about the independence of the Federal Reserve and the potential influence of politics on economic decision-making. The financial world was left reeling, but the implications of Trump's comments go far beyond the stock market. As the initial shock subsided, the focus shifted to the bigger picture, the balance between politics and central banking, and the potential fallout of this delicate dance. The repercussions of this event are likely to echo in the halls of finance for a long time to come. The real concern lies in what this means for the independence of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, as the central bank of the United States, holds significant influence over the country's economic health. Its reputation for independence from political sway has been a key aspect of its credibility. However, the recent attack on its chair, Jerome Powell, has raised eyebrows and concerns alike. Investors are now questioning whether political pressure could start to influence the Federal Reserve's monetary policy decisions. The implications of this potential shift are far-reaching. Monetary policy, which includes the control of interest rates and the supply of money, is a fundamental tool to manage inflation, unemployment, and economic growth. If these decisions were to be influenced by political agendas, it could lead to economic instability. For instance, imagine a scenario where interest rates are slashed not because the economy needs a boost, but because a politician desires to stimulate short-term growth for political gain. This could lead to an overheated economy, with high inflation and asset bubbles that could burst disastrously. Such a scenario is not just a concern for the United States. Given the role of the US dollar as the world's primary reserve currency, any instability in the US economy could send shockwaves through global financial markets. Countries that hold large amounts of US debt, such as China and Japan, could see the value of their investments plummet. Meanwhile, emerging economies that rely heavily on dollar-denominated debt could face increased borrowing costs and financial strain. In a nutshell, the independence of the Federal Reserve is not a trivial matter. It's a cornerstone of economic stability, both domestically and internationally. Any perceived threat to this independence has the potential to disrupt financial markets and economies worldwide. The balance between politics and central banking is on a knife edge. As we move forward, it will be crucial to observe how this balance is maintained and what implications it could have for the future of the US and global economies. Analysts are warning of a potential fallout. The stakes are high, and the repercussions of undermining the Federal Reserve's independence could be severe. The Fed's autonomy is a pillar of stability in the financial markets. It's their impartiality that allows them to make decisions based on economic indicators, rather than political pressure. But if this balance is upset, we could see a ripple effect throughout the financial world. Imagine a scenario where the Federal Reserve is influenced by political agendas. Interest rates could be manipulated, not for the benefit of the economy, but to serve political ends. This could lead to a mismatch between economic realities and monetary policy, creating a breeding ground for financial instability. This instability could send shockwaves through the financial markets. Investors, both domestic and international, could lose faith in the US economy, leading to a steep decline in investments. This could result in a drop in the stock market, businesses struggling to secure funding, and ultimately a slowdown in economic growth. But the impact doesn't stop at the stock market. Confidence in the US dollar could also be shaken. The dollar is the world's reserve currency, with countries around the globe holding it in their foreign exchange reserves. If the dollar's value plunges due to a loss of confidence, it could trigger a global financial crisis. Countries heavily reliant on the dollar could see their economies crumble, leading to a domino effect of economic collapse. Furthermore, this could negatively impact the US economy in the long run. A weakened dollar could lead to higher inflation, as the cost of imported goods would rise. This could lead to a decrease in purchasing power for American consumers, ultimately lowering the standard of living. All these potential consequences underline the importance of the Federal Reserve's independence. It's not just about the US economy, but the global financial system at large. The stakes have never been higher. We must ensure that the integrity and autonomy of the Federal Reserve are upheld for the sake of economic stability, both at home and abroad. Now, the big question that remains to be answered is, will the fiery attack by former President Donald Trump on Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell push the Fed to change its course? Or could this move backfire, leading to even greater market volatility? The implications of Trump's scathing critique are far-reaching, potentially impacting not just the US economy, but the global financial landscape as well. The Federal Reserve, traditionally viewed as an independent body, has suddenly found itself at the center of a political maelstrom. The concern is that this could lead to a shift in monetary policy decisions, influenced more by political pressure than economic indicators. If the Fed bends under this pressure and rushes to cut interest rates, it could result in a precarious situation. Lowering interest rates might provide a short-term boost to the economy, but it also risks inflating asset bubbles and stoking inflation. On the other hand, if the Federal Reserve stands firm and maintains its current course, it could lead to an escalation of this political war of words, causing even more uncertainty and market volatility. The financial markets thrive on predictability and stability, and any perceived threat to the Federal Reserve's autonomy could shake investor confidence in the US economy and the dollar. In short, Trump's attack on Powell has put the Federal Reserve in a tough spot. It's a delicate balancing act between maintaining its independence and managing the potential fallout from this political pressure. The world is watching closely as this drama unfolds. Will the Federal Reserve succumb to the pressure and alter its course, or will it stand its ground, potentially triggering more turbulence in the financial markets? Only time will tell. Stay tuned right here on Celebrity Scoop as we continue to monitor this developing story. Don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates. Thank you for watching.